Hi, fans of high quality entertainment. So I got this idea yesterday when I was doing the Rolling Stones top 50 worst album covers, which included the Beatles' Revolver, which was ridiculous. But anyway, one of the album titles was also ridiculous. And it is included in this list of 25 of the worst, for me, uh, album titles. And I scoured the internet for hours on end. Well, about half an hour. And I came up with some personal ones that have kind of maybe the title itself isn't the worst, but you'll see when I come to the certain albums here, like the first one. So these are not ranked except for the final 10, which I have ranked from 10 to number 1. So here we go. So the first 15 are in no particular order. And as always, please remember to thumbs up the video. It really does help my channel. Leave a comment below after you watch the video, not before. I've uploaded a video and within like 30 seconds, great video. It's like, how could you have watched it? How do you know it's a great video? And also, please subscribe. So here we go. So this first one, the title alone isn't really that bad. It's ZZ Top Recycler. But I think that's kind of a warning for the music within, because by this time ZZ Top was kind of just copying their formula that was so successful with Eliminator and Afterburner to a lesser degree. But the follow up to Afterburner, Recycler, was, I feel, they're just recycling the same sounds and less successfully than the previous albums. And I love ZZ Top overall, but it was a disappointing album. Next up, and I have it here on the side here, Alanis Morissette, supposed former infatuation junkie. That just rolls off the tongue. And this one, just kind of weak humor, I feel. Joe Walsh. He does have some very funny album titles, but this one is called You Bought It, You Name It, which kind of, if I bought this album, it's like, no, you name it. I don't want to name it. It's going to stress me out. I guess some people will find it funny, but I thought it was kind of a weak title and weak album cover. Next up, well, this is a good one. Yeah, it's the Butthole Surfers. What a nice band name. And the album is called Hairway to Stephen. Great album cover, too. All right. Now, this next one is just, for me personally, it's always annoyed me, especially the first day I saw it in the record store, because by this time, this band I love had already released 6 albums. And this one was called Introducing Sparks. And I understand that, later on I understood it's because this was their first album for Columbia Records, I believe in the UK, but it was their second one for Columbia in Canada and the States, because Big Beat came out on, so I got lost there for a second. Yeah, Big Beat came out on Columbia Records also in Canada and the States, but in the UK, Big Beat came out on Island Records, so this was the first one, I guess, on Columbia. And they're introducing Sparks to the label, but, you know, it's kind of silly when it's their 7th album. Don't get me mad. It's a great album, too. Great pop rock album. And I've always told this story. One of my friends absolutely hated Sparks, but when this album came out, he bought it because he liked the music. All right, next up. All right, this one is just a weak play on words. Salt and pepper. A salt with a deadly pepper. Get it? Assault. On to the next one. Have you liked the video yet or disliked it? Hurry up. Okay, next up, this band has more than one bad album title and some really good ones too. I could have picked Bananas, but I've chosen Deep Purple. Come taste the band. No, thank you. This next one I will move through very quickly. It is Gary Glitter, Touch Me. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, this one is Sparkle Horse. I've never heard this band. And sometimes it doesn't even have the title on the cover, but it's all together in one word. Diva Dixie Submarine Transmission Plot. Okay. Next up is a Canadian band. I always kind of thought like their debut album was really good. And I thought they'd always, you know, at one point be bigger than they ended up being, which wasn't very big. Although in Canada they sold quite a few albums. Our Lady Peace, and this is called Happiness, and then I guess on the back, is not a fish you can catch. I bet you didn't know that. Okay, this next one is, I need to say, That's Not What She Said. Size Isn't Everything by the Bee Gees. What a horrible album cover and title. Okay. Almost getting into the top 10. Are you not excited? All right. This one's going to be a pretty long title, but not as long as a couple of the ones coming up. This is Tyrannosaurus Rex, better known as T-Rex. My people were fair and had sky in their hair, ... But now they're content to wear stars on their brows. Okay, next up, this artist had at least one very cool album title. Meatloaf, Bad Out of Hell, with a great album cover. This one isn't quite as cool. Hang Cool Teddy Bear. Meatloaf. And this one I've talked about in the past. I was a huge, well, I'm a huge fan of this band, the early years. And by the way, if today is July 23rd, 2024, tonight on Grant's Rock Warehouse at 8 p.m., I will be there. And we're going to be talking about Grand Funk's third album, Closer to Home, reviewing it and rating it. So please join us. And so I'm talking about Grand Funk. This is when I stopped buying their albums, when I saw this in the record store. All the Girls in the World Beware. The album cover is horrible, and so is the title. One more, and then we get into the top 10. This one I recently did a album review on Patreon, and you can join my Patreon for as little as $2 per month, and there's a free trial 1 week. So check out the link below. Anyway, this wasn't I gave it a pretty good review, even though I'm not a big fan of them overall. And this is Coldplay, Viva La Vida, or Death and All His Friends. It's like they couldn't make up their mind what to call the album. All right, we get into the top 10. This is my all-time favorite artist, but this is not my all-time favorite song or album title. Paul McCartney, Kisses on the Bottom. Now, if you actually knew the premise of the song, it's about a letter and then, kisses on the bottom. But just, reading that, it's like, oh, Paul. That's too much information. Yeah. Okay, that's number 10. Number 9. Is a little gross and a little disturbing. It's George Clinton. Hey man, smell my finger. I can imagine going into a record store back in the day. Excuse me, do you have Hey man, smell my finger? Next up, yeah, all of these, they could almost be ranked. It doesn't really matter, but these are for me, they're the top 10 worst. And number 1 and 2 for me are the worst. Well, the top 4. Status Quo. Picturesque, match stickable messages from the status quo. Okay. Up next, and no, it isn't. You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. It's another album by REO Speedwagon, which is just as stupid. It is. The Earth, a small man, his dog, and a chicken. Must be a concept album. All right. This one is just, once again, just stupid, and the album cover's terrible. The spaghetti incident with a question mark. Does anybody know the story behind? Was there actually a spaghetti incident with Guns N' Roses? I'd like to know in the comment section below. All right, number 5. Everybody loves this artist. It's Ted Nugent with a very subtle album title. If you can't lick 'em, lick 'em. Thank you. Quickly moving on. Yeah, number 4. It was number 1 in my previous video for Rolling Stone's 50 worst album covers of all time, including the Beatles' Revolver. But I do agree with this being number 1 for the worst album cover, but also it's one of the worst album titles. Limp Bizkit with Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water. All right. So the final 3 are very wordy, and each one of them gets worse. So number 3 is, I've never heard of this artist before, Marnie Stern. That's the artist's name. And the title of the album is This Is It, and I Am It, and You Are It, and So Is That, and He Is It, and She Is It, and It Is It, and That Is That. Like I said, can you see going into a record store and saying, yes, do you have this is it and I am it and you are it and so is that and he is it and she is it and it is it and that is that? Okay. But imagine asking about these final two elements. Here we go. Number two. I thought this would be number one, but I found something even worse. Fiona Apple. This is the album title. You can see it there on the cover. When the pawn hits the conflicts, he thinks like a king. What he knows throws the blows. When he goes to the fight, and he'll win the whole thing. For he enters the ring, there's no body to batter when your mind is your might. So when you go solo, you hold your hand and remember that depth is the greatest of heights. And if you know where you stand, then you'll know where to land. And if you fall, it won't matter because you know that you're right. You need to have a nap. Okay, so that's number two. So number one, the full album title contains 156 words, 865 characters, and holds the Guinness World Record for the longest album title. Excuse me, I have to get some water first. Chumbawamba. The boy bands have won. And all the copyists and the tribute bands and the TV talent show producers have won. If we allow our culture to be shaped by mimicry, whether from lack of ideas or from exaggerated respect, you should never try to freeze culture. What you can do is recycle that culture. Take your older brother's hand-me-down jacket and restyle it. Refashion it to the point where it becomes your own. But don't just regurgitate creative history or hold art and music and literature as fixed, untouchable, and kept under glass. The people who try to guard any particular form of music are, like the copyist and manufactured bands, doing it the worst disservice, because the only thing that you can do to music that will damage it is not change it, not make it your own, because then it dies, then it's over, then it's done, and the boy bands have won. And that's it. That for me is the worst album title of all time. Congratulations, Chumbawamba. Let me know what you think in the comment section below or below. I'm too tired to do the below. And yeah, what other album titles do you think are bad? Curious to know what I've left out. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.